breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
Announced a huge surprise. President Trump has done more than any president in recent history to keep the promises that he made while on the campaign trail. That's because he's a real man of his word who made grand promises. Those promises are necessary changes that needed to be made to make America great again. That means that everything he promised was common sense and implementable. Everything from securing the border to bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States is just a sample of the issues that Americans want to be fixed. Americans want Trump to support these problems because it makes our lives better. Not the lives of illegals, not the lives of administrators at the UN, the lives of middle-class Americans who voted him into office. That means that every project that the president funds, he has to answer to those whose tax dollars are dearly given. He's not catering to the super rich or the extremely poor who live on welfare, he's working for those who run a small business or work 9-to-5 for 40+ years and retire if they're able to. Of course, retirement depends on Social Security. Those are the people who depend on the government to do its job and nothing less. That's why the president's new infrastructure plan is such a welcome announcement. The Washington Free Beacon reports how Trump will divide the $200 billion. Washington, Reuters, the Trump administration is finalizing its long-awaited infrastructure plan, which would push most of the financing of projects to private investment and state and local taxpayers, according to sources familiar with the proposal taking shape. President Donald Trump, who spoke frequently of improving U.S. infrastructure during his 2016 campaign, may preview the plan in his January 30 State of the Union address, but details are not expected until afterward, the sources said. Two people briefed on it said it would likely recommend dividing $200 billion in federal funding over 10 years into 4 pools of funds. The administration is structuring the plan to encourage $1.35 trillion in state, local and private financing to build and repair the nation's bridges, highways, waterworks and other infrastructure, one source said. The numbers in the Trump plan are still in flux and could change before he unveils it. The prospects of winning approval in Congress are uncertain given that Republicans have only a 51-49 majority in the Senate. Many Republicans want to use private sector investment to finance infrastructure projects to avoid increasing the national debt. Democrats believe that government money is necessary to produce such a large package. This is an excellent move on the part of successful business owner Donald Trump. He understands what it takes for the private sector to want to invest in a national project like this. If the government can defer some of the costs now, then it will make a stronger budget in the future. Under the Trump plan being shaped, the largest share of the federal money, $100 billion, is expected to go toward cost-sharing projects with local governments, similar to grants. The goal would be to reduce the ratio of federal funding, which often now is 80%, by awarding funds only to projects that are able to provide more local funding or leverage private investment, said a business lobbyist familiar with the discussion. Some $50 billion would be earmarked for rural projects, the lobbyist said. Those funds would help governors on projects like roads, broadband access and replacing aging lead pipes. Including a pool for rural infrastructure could also reduce concerns among some Republican senators who fear rural areas may be unable to attract private investments. $25 billion would go toward existing federal infrastructure loan programs that seek to spur private investment, the lobbyist said. The final $25 billion would be designated for so-called transformative projects, an effort being dubbed American Spirit projects. They could include high-speed trains or the Gateway Tunnel, the stalled proposal to build a new rail connection between New York City and New Jersey. The plan may not deliver any additional federal money than in years past. The proposal could take $200 billion from existing spending plans, although the administration has not yet committed to whether it would come from existing programs or whether the money would be found elsewhere. The administration is unlikely to rule out any forms of funding, including increasing the federal gas tax or creating a vehicle mileage tax, which would put electric cars that now use the roads but do not consume much gasoline on the same footing as cars with internal combustion engines, sources said. Donahue, the Chamber of Commerce president, is also expected to recommend expanding the ability of states to access private investment funds to complete projects, reducing the federal permitting process and addressing state and local permitting rules. He will call for more federally backed workforce training, including creating an apprenticeship task force. As part of that, Donahue will reiterate the Chamber's call for passing comprehensive immigration reform, a proposal where business has been at odds with the Trump administration. One of the great things about President Trump is that he understands what the government is supposed to be doing. They have a very select few jobs, including defending us and keeping the roadways safe. Focusing on those jobs and not on expanding the power of the government is a welcome reprieve from the previous leadership in the White House. It appears as though the last resident of the White House was growing monster in Washington. Trump's plans are what will make America great. Those ideas must include small government with great accountability.